And we're back live in the studios of WLCN. Viewpoint is the program. Seated to my right is the daughter of our co-host, and we're delighted to have her aboard, Cynthia Bowns. Cynthia is professionally involved in the Department of Children and Family Services, and therefore she's in and out of court quite a bit in pursuing her profession and serving the clients, which are very, very important. Cynthia, go right ahead. I want to turn the mic to you.
Well, and again, we are very lucky to have Judge Paul Lawrence with us and his campaign manager, Blinn Bates. Campaign costs. How bad can it get?
Well, at the
You're
local
covering
level.
5 counties. That's a lot of people to try to encompass.
Yeah, it is. I'm very well known in Bloomington and McLean County, and so, but I'm not as well known in the other 4 counties that I'm running in right now, and so it's obviously important for the people in those counties to get to know me, and so of course that does cost money, from newspaper ads and radio ads and billboards and that type of thing, mass mailings, and so there is some money to be raised that needs to be raised to be able to pay for those costs, and yeah, I mean it's nothing like, we had a Supreme Court race a few years back. It was the most expensive Supreme Court race in the history of the United States, right here in Illinois. So of course the money that we're raising and spending is nothing compared to that. But since it is a 5-county race, we do have some expenses that we're going to have in this campaign, no doubt about it.
Well, and I'm assuming that we have a campaign manager in each of the counties. Blinn is for Logan County.
Yeah, I've got a campaign manager. Bill and Mary Casely are my campaign managers. Bill was a circuit judge for many, many years. Matter of fact, it's his seat that I'm running for, which is kind of neat. So Bill and Mary are running my campaign, and then in each county I have a person who's responsible for that county. Here in Logan, Blinn Bates is doing that, and he's doing a great job.
At this level, we can kind of control, at this level, you're not about to go out and spend inordinate amounts of money for that. It's just because you got good common sense to start with. At the national level, personal comment, if I may, the money spent in this presidential election is just really nothing less than obscene. Just nothing less than obscene. And we're not going to change that. This super PACs and all that, that's one of the worst things that ever came down the pike insofar as politics is concerned. So we won't change that, but at the local level, that's not a real big issue.
No, it isn't. I mean, the campaign expenses are pretty reasonable, I think. I'm not sure how much we're going to end up spending on this campaign, but yeah, it's nothing. Now
at the judgeship level, and as a practicing attorney, I want to ask the question about cameras in the courtroom. Each of you probably maybe diverging opinions, or maybe the same opinion. Blinn, I'm going to throw the ball to you first.
Okay. I personally guess I don't have an issue with it. I think probably the only issue that I would see is clients, attorneys acting differently because they know that there's a television camera there. Which I think could definitely be a negative, but I think it could also be a positive in that people are going to see what actually happens in a courtroom, and that it's not law and order. I mean, that's
the point to make.
It's not Judge Judy.
The same people who watch Law and Order and think that's the way it actually is in the courtroom are the same people who are leaving shopping carts all over the hell and back. I think it's an invasion of privacy. Perhaps it would serve as a tool for the court, the judge, and the court system, but on balance, I think it's more personal voyeurism. Now, am I wrong on that, Judge?
Well, as you may know, Bill, the Supreme Court just passed a rule last week, and none of us had any idea that it was going to be passed. It surprised us all. And the rule, it's eight pages long, and it really gives, well, first of all, it allows each county or each chief judge to decide whether or not they wish to have cameras in the courtroom and set up a program. So there's a lot of discretion. Whether or not we're going to do it in our circuit, I don't know yet, but I assume that we're going to look at that. And then the rule goes on, and it gives each trial judge a lot of authority to decide what can be taped and what can't. There's certain types of hearings that cannot be in the media. So there's a lot of discretion. So I think the rule is very broad, and in general, I had your view, Bill, years ago. I was on the Illinois State Bar Association Assembly when I was a young lawyer. I was elected, and we had a non-binding vote at the time on cameras in the courtroom, and I voted against it. Justice Underwood, who was a Supreme Court justice for Bloomington, was a friend of mine, and he was adamantly against it. And I saw what he wrote about it, and I thought, he's right. I think cameras are a bad idea. But over the years, I've changed my view on it. The other states that have been doing it, I think it's worked without significant problems. And so I think, like Blinn said, I think it's a good thing for the public to be able to see what's really going on in the courtroom.
We don't have a death penalty anymore, so there's not that pot of money in capital murder cases to pay the attorneys who are representing the defendants. Would it be a possibility that if you had, say, Court TV come in to do whatever, you could charge them and put that in the pot? Because I know in Lincoln we're having an issue about attorney representation and payment for their services, because as of January 1st that little pot of money is gone.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I would be surprised if you can charge for that, but I really don't know the answer to that. That's interesting. But
tell me, it occurs to me that it could be like instant replay in the case of a particular case going to an appellate level and perhaps on up. Perhaps that might have an impact if they had the camera in the courtroom. Comments on that, gentlemen?
Another good question. I mean, generally, the record on appeal, of course, is a written transcript that the justices review. I've not heard of any camera, video being made a part of the appellate record, but that's an interesting question. Maybe it has happened. I don't know. Right now, it's just a transcript that the appellate court justices read. That's the record
it's just
on
a
appeal.
paper appeal. There's not even people or argument or.
That's right. Yeah, and that's what's interesting about my job in the trial court. We see people, we hear witnesses. When you're on the appellate court bench, it's a totally different job. You're reviewing the record that we've made at the trial court, and you either affirm or reverse what the trial court has done.
On balance, day in and day out, court procedures on camera wouldn't be very exciting or very important. It's pretty cut and dried. You're doing what the law says that you have to do. So it's a procedural thing. You're following whatever the laws that pertain to that particular case are. So it's not going to be very exciting. Yeah,
I can't imagine there would be very many cases that the media would actually want to cover. And a lot of our work is pretty mundane. I think jurors see that too when they come in for a jury trial. It's not nearly the way it's depicted on television.
Not as glamorous.
Yeah, it really isn't.
Go ahead.
I had a thought, but I've derailed.
I'll grab it and get one off for you. Let me pose a political question for both of you gentlemen. I receive a publication from Hillsdale College, which is a great school up there in Michigan. Very, very conservative.
I get that.
Get no money from the government. They can run their show exactly the way they want to run it, and they're pretty conservative, which is not a bad thing, by the by. I just read an interesting talk on the role of, in their publication, on the role of the federal government in education. Either one of you gentlemen have a thought about that or a comment you'd like to make?
Well, I read the article too, and
did you?
Yeah. And I know his viewpoint was that the federal government really shouldn't. Constitution doesn't provide that they should be involved in education, and
I thought the guy was right on target in the article.
Yeah.
But of course, I do admit to a certain conservative bent. So.
Yeah. Well, and once again, yeah, certainly his views. If once again, as a judge, I have to follow the law, whatever the law is now. If I thought that something was unconstitutional, then I would hold that it's unconstitutional, and I would rule that it was unconstitutional. As a trial court judge, we don't get very many chances to rule on constitutional issues such as that. That's usually at the appellate court and the Supreme Court level.
Yeah.
So that those kind of things are few and far between.
Judge Lawrence, in your career on the bench, are there any unusual incidents that have happened that you would be free to comment about? Anything on any cases anything unusual or matter of public record that?
Anything unusual? Well, gosh.
Well,
I can't. I'm trying to think.
At some point in time, in a juror's career, there have to be some things that have come up that have been rather unusual. This young man to your left has not had an opportunity to practice that long. And how about it, Blinn? In your practice, have you come across some things that have surprised you in your budding career as a lawyer?
Well, yes, I'd say that I have.
We won't. We'll omit the names.
Definitely omit the names. It's not one of those things typically where you're usually too shocked by the outcome of something. I would say 8 times out of 10, it's pretty known to the attorneys, I guess, what they think is going to be the outcome, whether you're going to win or lose. It's been somewhat shocking on occasion to have cases persist after you've advised of the imminent defeat, but nothing television worthy or anything like that.
Well, this is Logan County, not going to have too many television things worthy.
There's not a lot that
in your profession, Cynthia, have you come across things that are unusual as you present cases in various courts?
Well, what I have found very interesting dealing with juvenile court and speaking with attorneys that I've worked with in the 5 counties that I do, that law school doesn't really do a whole lot on juvenile law, that most attorneys really kind of prefer not to, because there's a lot of gray and a lot of latitude, I think, with juvenile law. It's open to interpretation. Blinn, you talk about while you're sitting in there, you really kind of have an idea which way this is going. There's a lot of times in juvenile court where you think, yeah, it's going to go this way, and the judge makes the ruling, and you say, ooh, really? And you're just totally blown out of the water.
One of the hard things I've found in juvenile court is just the darkness that you deal with, and I'm sure you deal with this pretty regularly. You know, some of the conditions that those people are living under, and because you're dealing with abuse situations and things like that are tough.
It is tough, and I think that's probably another reason why attorneys don't want to do that, and communities don't want to open their eyes and say this does happen in our community, because you don't want to believe that. Going back to something we were talking about a little earlier when we were talking about the law, there is room for interpretation in most of the laws, and I'm assuming when you're given that latitude to make an interpretation, you're going to have to draw on your background. And I look at your background, you're kind of well-rounded, Judge. You have a family and your different involvements, in spite of baseball and how I feel about that. But can you talk a little bit about what you do draw on when you're having to kind of interpret a law to make a decision on a case?
Well, yeah, I can tell you a little bit about my background, some of the stuff that you were starting to touch on there. I've lived in Bloomington my entire life. I went to Bloomington High School, and I'm a member of the Bloomington High School Hall of Fame, which was kind of neat. That happened 3 or 4 years ago. I went on to the University of Illinois. I was an accounting major there. I passed my CPA exam, and then I went to the University of Missouri School of Law after that. That's where I met my wife. My wife is an attorney in Bloomington as well. We've got 5 beautiful kids, and I've got my oldest is in law school at the University of Missouri, and then I've got one at the University of Illinois, and I still have three children at Bloomington High School. And I've been very active in the community. I was president of the Bloomington Kiwanis Club. I was lieutenant governor of Kiwanis, president of several organizations, including the American Diabetes Association, and so on and so forth. And I've been just very active in my bar activities as well as a judge. I'm on the Illinois, or I'm the chair of the Illinois Family Violence Coordinating Council for the 11th Judicial Circuit. And so, those kinds of activities, you're right. I mean, you can't walk in with a blank slate as a judge. You certainly have your background that you use in rendering your decisions when there is some leeway that you can have in interpreting a statute, for example. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background.
Well, I think that you've obviously been able to gather a pretty impressive background, Judge. Also a CPA, Certified Public Accountant.
I don't do numbers.
You can take care of Blinn's activities over there. You turn in your gamblings off the golf course, do you? I just wanted to know, keep you honest there.
I don't know what you're talking about there.
Well, there's a significant dossier, or so to speak, on Judge Paul Garnes. Blinn, before we wrap this thing up, do you have any comments to make on behalf of your candidate, sir?
Well, I think that by his record, he's certainly proven that he's capable of doing this job and doing it well. And speaking on behalf of myself and our firm, we certainly think he's the right man for the job.
Well, we're delighted to have both of you with us this morning. Cynthia Lynn, do you have a wrap-up that you'd like to comment?
I don't think so. Other than this has been very enlightening. There's a lot of things to voting for a judge, and I'm hoping people will come away with a little more information.
Well, we appreciate having both you gentlemen up. Judge, we look forward to seeing you as you work on the campaign trail in Logan County. We always try to close Viewpoint with a subject a topic that hopefully pertinent to the morning. This would accept the current candidate that we have in the office this morning in the studios. However, it's been said that since a politician never believes what he has said, he is always astonished at what others do. That does not include our sitting guest this morning. Thank you for Viewpoint.
Thanks, Bill.